Good evening. This is Peter McFarland, the chair of the Community Preservation Committee, and I'm calling the special meeting tonight on January 27th at 5:30, remote meeting. Purpose of the meeting is to have a public hearing and then eventually vote to recommend one supplemental project. First thing, we'll need to take a call of members and start with Tony.
Here?
Catherine Walsh,
Here.
Matt Lane,
Here.
Bill Greeley,
Here.
Bill Sheehan,
Here.
John Hall,
Here.
Patty Starr,
Here.
and Julie Bizet.
Julie Barber Isa here.
Sorry.
That's all right.
And we have Sue Bartlett, and I don't know, is that Lee Leach on call one?
Yes.
Call one, that's Lee Leach.
Okay, thank you. So first order of business is the approval of the minutes from January 13th. Has everybody had a chance to review them?
Yes.
Okay, can I have make a motion to approve?
Motion made.
Second.
Okay. No discussion, all in favor?
Wait,
John,
wait.
John, you have a,
Yeah. This is small but very important. In at least two places, our capable secretary has replaced Lee Leach's last name with the name of a blood-sucking parasite.
oh no.
I would suggest that he change that, especially since Lee is on the call.
Okay.
Okay.
That won't be the first time I referred to that like that, John.
So is there a motion to approve as amended?
Motion to approve as amended.
Second.
Okay, second, okay. All in favor, we do a vote, Tony,
Aye.
Joe Sheehan,
Aye.
O'Reilly,
Really, aye.
Matt,
Aye.
Catherine,
Aye.
John Hall,
Aye.
Patty,
Aye.
Julie,
Aye.
chair votes aye too, so approved unanimous.
Mr. Chairman, I will note those were some nice minutes. They really nice.
Yes.
Oh, thank you.
Yep.
I know we discussed this off. I'd like to take a note, personal note to my condolences to the Cooper family for, passing of Bernie Cooper Sunday night. I've known, many of us here have known Bernie for a long time. On a personal note, his oldest daughter, Alicia, and my son, Andrew, were good friends during high school and at BU too. So got to know Bernie on a personal side too. He was a tremendous asset to the town, and his loss we felt for a little bit of time here. So that sorry, of the news this week, but and that being said, we'll do the, I should put the agenda in front of me. Opening the public hearing. Do we need a motion to open the public hearing? Or,
Yes.
okay. I've entertained a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Show of hands, all in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Okay. So this public hearing is to discuss the supplemental application for the Carillon. The project was originally approved 2018. No. Well, the annual town meeting in 2009.
19, yeah.
And then it's been, at the time, 215,000. We didn't know where, was that best number. It was an estimate actually that was probably over a year old by the time we got it originally. And then it's been publicly bid out, and the Carillon part, as far as repair of the bells, came in at just under 215,000. But also we had to do painting of the Carillon Tower and around the bells, and that bid came in. Plus, I think about 135,000, but then reviewed by the town purchasing agent, contract manager, Kathy Carney, and she suggested that we should up the contingencies on this. So the application came in from Lee Leach to request an additional 200,000. So as far as that goes, so Pat has just put up the spreadsheet on the project. So that being said, are there any questions, or do we want any questions? Lee can handle it. John Hall.
I thought we ought to kind of say for the record that if we had known enough to have this complete budget to act on when we first considered the project, there is no question that it would have been unanimously approved, and we would have had sufficient funds to approve it. So some of the concerns that people sometimes have about projects that grow after they're initially approved do not apply in this case.
Thank you, John. So,
Hi, so Sue Bartlett, town meeting District 3 member. I just I saw that it was a public hearing for this item, and I just wanted to jump on and just just speak to my support of the Carillon and this project, and in listening to the prior meetings that you guys have had, and Kathy Carney's reasoning for the extra contingencies. The Carillon is just such an amazing resource for the town that I think, it definitely is worth every penny of whatever we can do to keep it going. And likewise, it's such a rarity that there's so few Carillons in existence that it just lends itself to being a little bit more unknown than any other project because of its uniqueness. So just as a town meeting member, I just wanted to come on tonight and just show my support for this item and say what a great job it's going to be to get it all fixed up. And it's just amazing up there for anyone who hasn't been up there and seen it. Definitely reach out to Lee and get a tour because it's worth it. So that's all. Thank you.
thanks, Sue.
Thanks.
Okay. Lee, would you want to speak anything more on the project, or you feel it's enough been said?
I just will put in my comments briefly, and that the aspect of funding a project like this one, actually it was Bernie and myself who put together the first draft back in 2019. And we were pretty much operating on, basically this, seat of our pants in terms of just our best guess. And, the comments that both John and Sue are very appreciated. But just going forward, we did do as much diligence as we could at the time And then the fact that as we got through going into the process of actually getting solid numbers through contract, it became very clear that basically the best option would be to do a supplemental that could be covered with for the painting. So in fact, Ben Sunderland's contract was awarded, is actually going on now, in terms of the initial funding. So just because the contracts weren't completely done doesn't mean we didn't try to keep going and get some work done on this. So Carillon right now is mission. Ben left the one bell that was heard today when Bernie's cortege went through town. So from now until it's reinstalled back, and going forward, maybe sometime in the middle of the springtime or late spring, the bells will be silent.
Okay. Thank you, Lee. Matt Lane, then Joe Greeley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just very quickly, just wanted to make a note that last night at the Selectmen's meeting, Pat presented this information, and the board unanimously supported moving forward for the same reasons that Ms. Bartlett just mentioned. I mean, it's a great project. Everyone really believes in it, so I think it's got really widespread support.
Joe?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of things. Thanks, Sue Bartlett, for your comments. Will definitely those would definitely come in handy as an advocate, from speaking as an advocate at town meeting. As Lee said, this was initially it was a moving target. It was a best estimate back a couple of years ago. I definitely think from a committee standpoint that, well, I should say I am fully in favor of this, and I would recommend that we approve it and move it forward. From a learning standpoint for the committee, I definitely think there are things that we should identify as takeaways for our own knowledge and for our own process going forward with other projects. Things like, we've kind of already talked about these, and I think we've fine-tuned our own process, but having like up-to-date and reliable bids, and this is not a dig about the Carillon. We did give it our best estimate back a couple of years ago, but there are definitely things to be learned from this project and from this subsequent request that I think we should definitely, kind of look in the mirror and say, these are the things that we need to ensure going forward for future projects, that we've dotted the I's and crossed the T's ourselves. Secondarily, or thirdly, maybe, I have had a few conversations this week with Lee and others as far as Bernie Cooper is concerned, and I echo the chair's comments, condolences to the family and the other family that works in town hall. Bernie had definitely had two families, and we're all of us extended family are sad to see him go. Bernie was definitely the person, based on what I know and history that's been told. Bernie Cooper was essentially the savior of the bells. They had been kind of left in the tower, not to be cared for years. I think the last time that any work was done was, I believe, 1994. Correct me if I'm wrong, Lee. But I think Bernie did a great job of bringing them back into the radar screen and into the front burner. And I definitely think, among thousands of other things, Bernie did a lot behind the scenes that we may never know of, all the things that he did. Likewise, Lee, if Bernie's the savior, then Lee is the keeper. And I wanted to thank Lee for bringing this project back to the forefront, and hopefully they'll be good to go for years to come. But thank you all. Thank you.
Okay, Tony?
Thank you. Just a few words. I agree with your sentiments definitely about Bernie. I also remember how much you loved the bells and that years ago, he would be in the parking lot behind Town Hall, humbly passing out programs for the concert years back. But more specifically, as a town meeting member too, and a member of this committee, I would like to publicly say that I support this incremental sum and that I realize it's a lot of money, but I too have been upstairs. It was quite a number of years ago, made that spiral stair climb to the top. And without actually seeing the bells, you can't get a grasp of the magnitude, the size, the weight, the complexity of the whole system. And if you had the opportunity to see it, then you could understand why this amount of money would be needed to bring it back to full beauty and working order. And so it's definitely, as Julie said, it's a most unique instrument and so worthy of our care. So I just wanted to put my 100% backing behind this as well. And especially with our 150th anniversary coming up.
Sue Bartlett? Yeah.
Sorry, one more thing. I was just, I got the yellow sheets today in the mail and I was just, I hadn't seen actually which bucket of money that you're going to be recommending that this comes from. That was just my follow-up question. Is it going to be the historic or is it going to be the unreserved? I was just wondering what you were going to recommend as a committee for that.
Well, we'll be taking a vote on that, but I would think it would be coming from unreserved. But we'll be voting on that after we conclude the public hearing. We need to take the vote to recommend it to town meeting. So
I was just wondering, like, if as long as it's a historic project, it might be worthy of just taking the money from the historic bucket, because it then would allow you to have more money in the unreserved. So if something like if you're always doing your historic projects from like working down your historic bucket, when you do an open space, work down the open space, then leaving the largest amount in unreserved in case maybe something came up, open space, a parcel of land became available or something, you'd have the largest amount in unreserved to be able to use it for whatever your discretion. And that might be something to think about too, instead of using an unreserved. If you have the 200 grand in your historic bucket, maybe to use it from there. Just a suggestion. I don't know.
well, we could do the Pat Duchesne rule and go 50-50. John Hall?
Different subject. I know that we're going to try to regularize the inclusion of little plaques so that the CPA contribution to projects like this is immortalized on the property when the project is done. But I'm wondering whether we might not find a couple of words to put in to recognize Bernie Cooper's role over so many decades. And the timing on this seems like an excellent opportunity to have a really major memorial, something in town that has his name on it. And we don't have to decide on that now, but I want to plant that thought for future reference.
I agree, but I don't think it's appropriate for us to do it, but I would suggest that maybe our selectman representative, like Matt Lane, might want to, because making dedications, I think it's more of a town management decision. So I would maybe strongly recommend that Matt keep that in mind.
Yeah, of course. No, I think it's a great idea.
Yeah. Thank you, John. Thank you, Matt. Anybody else have any comments or anything they want to add before we close the public hearing? So what is?
Sorry, this is my last thing. So just thinking of what you just said about Patrick wanting the 50-50 split sometimes, just a reminder that when a project is over, if the funds have come from split sources, that they need to be returned in the same like proportion to those buckets. So like for the chapel, I think I think I saw in the last meeting that you're looking to get, to close that project out. And just a reminder that the part of that money came from historic. I think it was like 54.5 and then 35.4 from unreserved. So that has to go back in the same proportions when you return the money that you haven't spent, just as a reminder. Sorry. That's
Okay,
just
thanks.
a geek accounting note there. Sorry.
Geez, why? Why? Because you know Munis? Joe Sheehan had his hand up, and then I go to Pat.
I just want to say that I agree with John on the dedication, and I fully support that. And also, I liked what Sue said about the historic, taking from that bucket the money.
Okay. Pat?
Yeah, I was just going to highlight on what Sue said. So we, I know this is a little bit off topic, but we did finish out the Bond Street Playground project. There's only about $3,500 left in that account. I confirmed it with Travis. We closed out the account. I let accounting know. And they knew right away what the town meeting vote was on the percentages. So I got a confirmation from the assistant town accountant basically saying, you know, that money will be returned to the both budget reserve and the use account by the appropriate percentage. So, you know, I know it's a little off topic, but that, you know, we are good when we eventually, when we close out projects, the money will go back to where it should go.
Okay. Anybody else, or if not, I take a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion made.
Second,
And give me a hand on a second.
second.
Joe? Okay, I got it now. And no further discussion. Take a call to close the public meeting. Tony,
Aye.
Catherine,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Patty,
Aye.
Joe Sheehan,
Aye.
Bill Greeley,
Aye.
Matt,
Aye.
Julie,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye also. So unanimous. We've closed the public hearing. Now we just want to take up the discussion for the special town meeting. I think the first thing we do is talk about how on a vote of recommending this project to town meeting. As far as I guess the first thing would be a motion to recommend town meeting the supplemental project. Joe, you make a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Tony, second? Okay. All right. So any discussion? I guess this is the time we should talk about as far as how we want to allocate. I did look to see how much was actually in the historical preservation bucket. And then that would kind of move to where we are. John, what?
Just to give a reference point for people, I would recommend that we take the money 2-to-1 out of unrestricted.
So you say, John? Is that what we're saying, like 66,000 out of historical?
Yeah. Whatever.
134 out of unrestricted?
Yeah.
That adds up to 200,000? Okay. And John, is that your, I guess that would be the,
That's addition to the motion.
okay. You want to, okay, we need have a, Joe, would you want to amend the motion to,
Can I have a question first?
Catherine? Sure.
Yeah, so new member question. When did the buckets get replenished?
It'll be at the annual town meeting in the spring.
In
So we're
spring?
May. Yeah.
Okay.
So we're 5 months out right now, 4 months out. So.
Okay, second question. John, what's your rationale for the 60-30 split?
It's along the following lines. The when the funds are replenished, it's like 2/3 of it goes to unreserved and 1/3 is split among the 3 dedicated buckets. So there's a certain precedence for that kind of a split. Also looking at how it will leave the balances. We've generally tried to avoid allocating project costs in a way that will crush any of the dedicated funds, even if it's a large budget. Certainly, the historic preservation balance could only take about 3/4 of the budget anyway. So it just, whereas the budgeted reserve, if we go along the lines I'm thinking of, will still be on the order of double what the 2 of the other reserved are. And
Okay.
housing is special because we've never spent a nickel on housing yet.
Yeah.
So that's a sort of a general idea of the way my brain was working.
Okay, makes sense. Thank you.
Well, just looking at what we've got in front of us, coming out of historical preservation right now is 78,000. Plus the 66 for this, we have 148. So we'd be down to like $4,000 left in historical preservation after all this is allocated. Is everybody comfortable with that part?
I'm not.
Tony?
Thank you. I'm not comfortable with that at all, quite honestly, because having money in the historic section guarantees a sum there, whereas unrestricted does not. It's up for general grab, so to speak, by all the various allowed uses. So being that there's a much larger balance in the unrestricted, I was hoping it would go the way I had seen it, that 200,000 would come from the budgeted reserve from the unrestricted funds. Because we know there's a lot in the future for historic preservation, and including maybe the sign program, or who knows what will happen with the Morse House. There's just a lot going on in that area right now. So I'd be more inclined to take the entire 200 from the unrestricted sums. Thank you.
Joe Greeley?
Just a couple of comments. The amount that was added to the all 3 of the categories, historic, open space, and housing, last year was 78,000. So at the very least, we should expect to have, I'll say, $80,000 additional put back into those 3 accounts with the May 2021 annual town meeting. So it's if you look at it that way, it's John's recommendation of the 66 coming out for that purpose. It's not quite a wash, but we will certainly have, I guess a healthy number in the historic preservation reserve after the May town meeting. I think the downside of so for that reason, I think John's recommendation it's logical and it's fair, I guess. I would recommend against taking all the funds from the unreserved account, because the unreserved account gives us the most flexibility, and we'd rather keep money in there, because then we can kind of pivot and move that money either back to historic, or we can move it into the other 2 reserves as well. I think we personally, I think unless we have something specific on the near horizon, I think we'd be best keeping as much money as in the unreserved as possible. The 10% that we move out every year into the 3 reserve accounts, just to remind the body, the 10% is a minimum. So we could always, if in the event Tony mentioned other significant historic projects coming up, we're not held to the 10%, and we could always fund more if we see some of those projects coming into the foreground. So the numbers to me, they one third, 2/3, John's recommendation seems to make sense. It's a little bit arbitrary, but I'd be in favor of his recommendation. Thank you.
Ocean?
I agree. At first I said, take it all out of historic, but I did not have the numbers in front of me. So I see what John has proposed and what Joe is also willing to go along with. It does make sense to do it that way to me. Thank you.
For simplicity's sake, can we break, I'm thinking about breaking this into two parts. First, to recommend, which we already have a motion for, and then second part of it to figure out the, for the discussion of what percentage to do or what, I don't know. I just think it's, I'd like to get one question done and then we can talk about the allocation. Joe Shan?
I agree.
Okay. Is anybody want to discuss that part, or we just have the motion to recommend that we approve this project for 200,000, and then second motion will make up what we're going to do for allocation?
Okay.
Seem like a plan right now, just to get this one thing done, and then the other part we can discuss a little bit further. With that, we'll take a vote, and so motion is to recommend this to town meeting for 200,000 allocation to come in a subsequent motion. Tony?
Aye.
Catherine?
Aye.
Matt?
Aye.
John Hall?
Aye.
Patty?
Aye.
Joe Sheehan?
Aye.
Joe Greeley?
Aye.
Julie?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. So we approved the recommendation for 200,000. So next part. Wants to put up the motion. John had the motion. Open the discussion with doing 66,000 out of reservation and the balance of 134,000 coming from unrestricted. We did have discussion as far as 78,000 that we're also recommending to town meeting. Will leave us a balance after this at $4,171. Is that somebody want to put that to a motion, and we can start from there? John Hall, your motion?
I will make the motion, but I would like to hear very much what the preferences are of Catherine and Julie and Matt and you, Mr. Chairman, and Patty. So far, you've got 4 people on the record. 3 are comfortable with my version, and Tony has got a different choice. But most of the committee hasn't yet expressed an opinion, and whether that's done before or after the motion is on the floor doesn't matter to me, but I would like to do that before we vote.
Okay, well, Julie?
Yeah, John, I agree with your motion. I like maximum flexibility. I think all of these projects are, all these buckets of money are really important. And I think historic preservation is important, but you never know what's going to come down the pipeline. So I agree that maximum flexibility here is good.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'll jump in too. I would just echo what Julie is saying, and respectfully agree with John.
Okay. Anybody else? Catherine?
I agree with John and Joe and the rest of the groups. I'd like to split that way.
Anybody else besides myself?
Patty?
Yep, Patty, yep.
Thank you. Yes, I agree with splitting it also.
The 66 and 134, okay. I can go along with that too. The 66 coming from historical preservation and 134, and then we'll replenish. It doesn't, Tony, doesn't stop us from, next time there's a project coming up, we just take it from unreserved anyways, because we can reallocate reserve at the next town meeting probably will be annual anyways. So we'll be adding to the bucket anyways, and if you felt, you would like to see some more, especially if you know something, we could add it at that time too.
That was,
Tony, go ahead. Your floor.
I mean, that was my opinion, that I would have preferred that, but in order for all our projects to get maximum approval at town meeting, especially since it's virtual and that's a little more difficult for full discussion, I'll defer to John's motion, but as the historical representative, it's what you would expect, that I would have liked to keep the balance healthy.
Like to see something in your bucket, huh?
Let the record show I'm doing my job. That was my feeling on it. Thank you.
We understand.
Thank you.
It's just we're very active in historical preservation this time around.
Right,
And
yeah.
maybe sometime we'll get something in housing. As far as that. But okay. So everybody's kind of been polled. John, your motion would be to the 66,000 from historical preservation, 134,000 from budgeted, what do we call it? Unbudgeted, unrestricted.
Budgeted reserve.
Budget reserve.
And you seconded?
Yep.
Okay. Any further discussion or any questions, or Joe Grilling?
Joe, unmute.
Aye.
We're not good at reading lips here.
Just a comment, just food for thought as we progress with these projects. I think we've learned, another learning moment is we've learned that we need to request / require some periodic feedback, especially as projects, longer term projects continue on. So I just want to make sure that there's some, between now and town meeting, if we could give this, it's not part of the vote to accept them, but I think going forward, we need to build in some kind of reporting mechanism that, especially for these long tenure projects or long duration projects, that we continue to keep our finger on the pulse of these projects. And that's my advertisement for the treasurer. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, I'd call for moving on the article, moving on the motion. So all in favor, I'll call Tony.
Aye.
Catherine,
Aye.
Patty,
Aye.
Yoshin,
Aye.
Bill Greeley,
Aye.
Natalie,
Aye.
Julie,
Aye.
John Hall.
Aye.
Chair votes yes also. So, where was that? So next, as far as town meeting goes, have you, I know I saw the slides. Did you distribute to the whole committee, or is it just what I saw the slides for what we're doing?
I think I attached in my email for this meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
so that's
All right.
the basis of that's basically the presentation that I have, kind of, I'd like to recommend going forward with. I mean, obviously, if more detailed questions are asked about a certain project, we might want to go into one of those things a little bit in more detail if the project advocate is there. But obviously for simplicity's sake, just trying to kind of get to the point of what the project is, where the money's coming from, and if someone has a more detailed question, I think we'd handle it at that time.
Okay. Is everybody comfortable with that, or any questions or concerns? John Hall?
Pat, are we likely to have all of the project representatives there?
Well, Travis is there for 2. Morse House, Tony will be there. The chapel, not the chapel, the Carillon project. Kathy Carney can obviously be there to advocate for that. And so, the Old Parish Cemetery. I'll have to check with Patty Fanning. I don't know if she's a town meeting member or not, but I may reach out to her and see if she could be available.
I don't think she or John, the other leader.
Yeah, John Grove, no. I think John lives in town. I think John lives in Sharon, I think. As far as that goes.
My point was only that, your idea is basically sound, that we draw on the people who are advocating for the projects. If there are questions, I just think we should be sure in advance we know who's actually going to be there to answer questions for each project.
Yeah, we could either do it that way, to have the project advocate there, or, frankly, I can answer questions about that project. I mean, we have the application in front of us. We can explain what the purpose is for it. But obviously, if the project applicant wants to be there, they are the most, they're the authority on that project. They're the person that knows the most about what they want to do.
Tony?
Yeah, actually, I did have a concern about town meeting, and I know that it's obviously very different, and you want to keep it briefer, and there aren't any PowerPoints, but suppose a town meeting member, we've had new town meeting members during all this virtual stuff, and what if someone doesn't know where the Morse House is, or wants to, Patrick, I guess I'm asking you, would there be, a picture that could be put up, from the PowerPoint? Could something put up, what if somebody has a question, I'm really at a loss.
I have the address, but I guess I'll put the picture. I think that makes more sense.
It was just a nice picture of the house, at least maybe, only if somebody asked. It has been on TV. I do want to thank Norwood Community Media. They did roll out the September 23rd hearing with a PowerPoint. So hopefully no one is in the dark about the Morse House, but it was a concern of mine about the lack of information.
Mm-hmm. We talked about the Murphy, the basketball court. A lot of people might, of all things, they might not know where that basketball court is located. So talking about maybe putting an aerial shot, at least, of Pleasant Park with the basketball court. So as it currently stands, so somebody will be able to, I've been by it enough, realize what it is, or where it is. As far as that goes. So, we'll try to, get through it as quick as we can, or as simple as we can. Catherine?
So I agree with you. I think all you need is one slide with an aerial, and just plop the locations on there and put it at the end of the slide deck. Just to go back to the Carillon write-up. So am I incorrect that the 200, the bulk of that was additional scope related to the painting?
Yeah, like 135 or 135, 137,000 of that.
So I think the write-up should say that. So I think if you read this write-up, it looks like it's escalation, and I think it should be more affirmative that it's additional scope related to the painting. So it doesn't look like the escalation is almost as much as the original project budget.
Yep.
John? Sorry.
I agree with Catherine. In fact, when I read it, I thought inflation was second behind COVID. And that's not the impression we want to give people, because if they push on it, we can't really back that up. But I don't see a reason why we just don't tell them the truth.
Yeah. And I recommend we take that sentence out.
what's is that?
Yeah. Joe is signaling, Joe Greeley signaling.
Joe Greeley has his hand up again?
Both hands.
Greeley speaks, listen.
So to that point, it's a good point. I know, again, in sidebar discussions with Lee, he does intend, and he has not sent me a draft yet, but he does intend to have available a quick write-up to that effect. Part of what I mentioned before about a learning moment, but he was available if we had such questions tonight. He's physically was present tonight. He does intend to be there at the special town meeting. But yeah, your point is a good one. I know he intends to provide that probably almost certainly through Patrick before town meeting.
Yeah, my only suggestion is the text in the presentation should reflect that and not it looks like it's due to COVID and escalation.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Pat, you got that, Pat?
Sure.
Okay. So where are we as far as we're voted on the allocation, right? We're taking care of that.
Yeah.
Okay. So any other things as far as CPA business and updates? If not, we can take John Hall.
I think there are three possible things. One is hearing more about where Pat is going, and more importantly and greedily for us, who are we getting instead, if he knows. That would be number one. Number two is project updates on ongoing projects. I think you had a lot of what we know in the packet you sent out, Pat, so maybe there's nothing more beyond that to be said here. And the third is a small item. I think it would be useful if in our letterhead or in our minutes, we started identifying who's representing what. Like, it took me some thinking to realize that Julie's the new at-large member, and Catherine is the new Conservation Commission member. And because they came on close together and I was not as familiar with what either of them was doing or not doing with Concom, I struggled with that. And this also plays into who gets appointed by the selectmen on a schedule and versus who gets designated by an appointing organization, which we have a nice table on from Pat, but this would be a good thing to add to that table.
Mm.
You're looking quizzical, Pete. See what I'm saying.
I'm not clear what you want to add to the.
I think I've talked myself into saying we should have the who's representing what.
Oh, okay.
On the list,
Large member, Concom, and
are due to be reappointed, redesignated, or anything else.
Okay. Sure, Pat's got plenty of time. He'll just add another column there and.
Okay. John Cincerello, you got that?
So just one quick thing, you might want to check your dates in that, Pat, because you have that I was appointed in 2023. So
I think you're supposed to, you're up in 2023.
Yeah. So I think you have the appointment date is wrong, and Tony's appointment date is 1/15/2021.
Yeah, officially, because she was.
Got it.
Yeah.
She was re-upped.
Although she re-upped, it's for every 3 years, but it was just a technicality because we didn't have the letter.
Okay, so I think mine probably should be 2020.
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah.
Sure.
Either that, you're planning well ahead.
I know, right?
Okay.
On that note,
Patty?
I did get reappointed today.
Do you have a
Congratulations.
letter sent to Mary Lou?
Yeah, Steve Merritt emailed it to Mary Lou Follen.
Okay, I'll confirm with her tomorrow. Cool.
Okey doke.
Yep.
Welcome back, Patty, you know. All righty. Anything else anybody want to bring up, or do we want to take a motion to close?
Can I ask one more question? Did we notify the PBC? Yeah, I know. Did we notify the PBCC about closing out St. Gabriel's?
No, not yet. I have the letter written. I'll get it out when I can.
Okay, thanks. And John's question about who do we get after Pat leaves us?
I have a conversation. I'm having a conversation with Paul Hillis tomorrow. So we'll discuss that and have a plan going forward for the next this last CPC meeting on February 10th. Is that right? Yep.
February 8th.
So we'll have an action plan by then.
Okay, great. Well, good luck, Pat.
Thank you.
Walpole, though. Jesus.
Sound like Ernie Petchakowski. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. So, yep.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure working with all of you, and obviously with our original members too. And yeah, I think we're gonna get there. Some good projects are definitely gonna hopefully get completed soon, especially with this spring. I know Travis is working to finish up the lower bulge, and we'll get the pavilion set up. You know, and I'll hopefully be able to have good news after town meeting, and get some more projects approved, and hopefully good things to come for the CPC.
Thank you, Pat.
Thank you. Thank you, Pat. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. With that, it's 6:30, so Tony's got to go. So
Dinner time.
to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second by Tony. Quick, raise your hand if you want to go. Okay, we're adjourned.
That's it.
All right.
Bye, everybody. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much and good luck, Patrick.